So when we left off last, we had code for a ship class, and we were able to get the ship on the screen. But right now the ship doesn't do anything. So in this video, let's go ahead and add some code to get the ship to move left and right. And then we'll also get some preliminary code to make the ship shoot. All right, so let's just go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so I'm going to look right into the ship class here, and let's go ahead and make some just stubs for some functions that describe what we want it to be able to do. So one thing I want it to be able to do is move to the left, and I also want it to be able to move to the right, and our ship should be able to shoot. And right now I'm just putting some pass statements in here, and a pass statement is a Python statement that does nothing, but what it does is it allows us to have the syntax correct, because if I make a function declaration like this and don't have any statements in it, it sees the semicolon here and it's expecting the next line to be indented, and it's not, because I just went right into the next function. So the pass statement now the all the indentation of our code is correct, and we can just work on these things right one at a time. So then how's the moving going to work? Well, I'm going to give my ship another attribute called speed, and I'm picking 5 here, but again, this is the reason I'm making this is a variable is this is a number I think we might want to play with. When I say a speed of 5, what I mean is if the ship is moving on any iteration of the game loop, it's going to move either 5 pixels to the left or 5 pixels to the right. And if that turns out the ship is going back and forth across the screen too fast, I'll lower this. And if it seems like it's taking too long for me to move around the screen, I could just increase that number a little bit. So, so what I can do now with my moving left and right is I can just say my self.rect remember.x. Remember, when we're talking about it, the position of a sprite, we're actually going to reference the rectangle that contains it. And so I'm going to say the rectangle, and I'll just say minus equals self.speed. And then when we want to move to the right, we'll just say the rect.x and plus equals the speed, right? So subtracting from the x coordinate of the rectangle that contains the little shape, the image, should make it move to the left. Adding should make it move to the right on the screen. So now we need to go into the game loop, and let's deal with the controls. All right. Now I'm going to show 2 different ways here, and I think the second one will be better, but I think it's a good idea to show them both just for comparison. So one thing we can pay attention to is events. And events are when a key is pressed, released, when a mouse button is pressed and released. So it's the moment something happens that is considered an event. So I am going to check key down events. So this is when the user presses a key, and so I'm going to check. I'm going to use the arrows for my controlling here. So I'm going to say if event.key is equal to pygame k underscore, and let's see, left will be the left arrow, I believe. And I could say ship, which is the object we're trying to control, move. So the ship will tell the ship to move to the left. And just copy that. And if we move to the right, we'll call the move right function on the ship. And again, this is not syntax that I would necessarily memorize, right? But I think you could, if you wanted to check for more keys, you could. And so let's run this and see what happens. So I got my ship here, and maybe you can hear it, but every time if I want the ship to keep moving, I have to keep pushing the key. I have to push the key repeatedly, and every time I push it, I get 5 pixels out of it. So this is actually not. I think I don't want to use events to check for movement of my ship. So I'm going to get rid of this. And instead, aside from looping through events, we can also poll for the state of the key, like poll for states of keys. And what this function does, this get pressed does, is it returns a list of all of the keys that are currently being pressed. So I have an alternate way of handling the input. I'm going to say if pressed, and then we'll say and we'll put the key constant in brackets here, and then I can say ship.move left, and I can say elif pressed and check for the right key. And we'll have the ship move to the right. And so now, much better. I think the speed is pretty good. And all I have to do is hold the key, and when I let go, right, things stop. We've got a little bit of a problem here, though. And that is I can move off the edge of the screen, and I would like my ship to, when it hits the edge, I want it to get stuck right on the edge. So that's an easy fix. So let's go back up to our ship class. And also let's remember that our screen has a width, right? That means the x coordinates on the screen go from 0 all the way over to 960 on our game window. And so what I need to do when I move left is just, if the ship goes off the screen any, right? If subtracting 5 pixels from the x coordinate of my ship makes it go off the screen any, we're just going to nudge it back on before we actually redraw. And so I'll just add a little conditional right here, and I'll say if, and this time instead of talking about the rectangle, so this time, instead of talking about the general just x coordinate of the rectangle, right? The x coordinate, this is the x and y of the rectangle are the upper left-hand corner, but I think it's going to be more clear if we say if self.rect.left. So this is going to be the x coordinate of the left side of the rectangle, which is this little wing over here. And if that is less than 0, then we know the ship has gone off the screen. And what I can do is I'll just say self.rect.left equals 0. And so when we rerun it, now when I go to the edge, I'm still holding the arrow left, but I can't go any further because every time it subtracts 5, my ship is nudged back on the screen before it's drawn again. Right? Now we can also do the same thing with the right side of the screen. And I'm going to say if self.rect.right. This time I'm going to say is greater than, and I don't want to use the number 960 because that might change. So I'm just going to reference the width, and then I'll say self.rect.right is equal to the width. And so we'll run this, and as soon as I get to the edge of the screen, I'm holding the right arrow, but I can't go right any further. So now we've got the motion handled, and let's go ahead and shoot. Okay. Now, we don't have any classes for lasers or anything yet. We don't have enemies. So I'm actually not going to make anything appear on the screen. I just want to set up the input component of it. And so I am just going to put a print statement in here. And we'll just print. Pew. Okay. And so what we have to do is think about what kind of input should shoot a laser. And in this case, again, I'm thinking, do I want it to be an event, or do I want it to be the state of a key? And in this case, I think I want to be like, if I'm going to use the spacebar to shoot, what I want to do is have to press the spacebar repeatedly to shoot. So I am going to add a line here that says if elif event.type key down, and actually I'm just going to kind of space these out a little bit. And I'm going to check for the shoot key. So I'm going to say if event dot key equals pygame dot k underscore and the space bar. You can use whatever key you want, but I'm going to say space. Then I'm going to say ship dot shoot. And so let's on this, and we can move back and forth. And every time I hit the space bar, right, the ship shoots. So now maybe it's time, in the next videos, we'll put some enemies up here, and we'll also put some lasers into the game.